Leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, Julius Malema, talking to us. And of course, the EFF will be launching their manifesto in Soshanguve on the 2nd of February. Interesting points earlier on that we were making about the way economic transformation was managed previously. And in terms of the youth, you say, they have to be put at the center of transformation. Any particular ideas that come to mind on how you do that?
Well, there shouldn't be any development that takes place which at the center of it is not young people and women. So if you talk industrialization, you need to give people tax incentives on condition they empower young people, they empower women. When you talk land, which can be productive, if there's a bidding of such land, you must look at amongst the people who are looking for the land, are they young people, are they women? When the youth apply for funding, especially young women, we ought to take into consideration that these people may not have what we'll call collaterals, and therefore, if we're to ask of such things from them, they will not produce them. What is the best method? Can't the banks establish a unit in the banks which goes into partnership with people who come up with good ideas? So let's say you've got a perfect point, a business plan. The Standard Bank can be able to say, we're going to partner with you, ABSA or FNB or any other commercial bank, say, this idea is good, we're going to finance it, we will be co-signatories in the account to make sure that the money is used for the right purpose. Unlike demanding things that are obvious, even our elders can produce.
Sure. Here's the point, though. I'm going back to the whole problem of where the money will come from, and I'm thinking of the Public Investment Corporation, the PIC, for instance. It's got substantial stakes in the banks, and that is money of government employees anyway. So, I want to hear your views in how it deploys its wealth, the PIC. And then we've got the Industrial Development Corporation, your views on how it does business, because it's supposed to be there for development, to assist in making, helping people get into business. Then you have the National Youth Development Agency. Now that when you talk about the banks, right, that there are many agencies, funding agencies that are available that should or could have played a much more significant role than they've played. What do you think happened?
Well, firstly, money goes into the cadres of the movement and the politically connected. It doesn't go to the real beneficiaries. So IDC, PIC, I understand the sensitivity around the PIC because that's a workers' pension. And if you invest in a very risky environment, you're likely to lose the money of the workers. But my problem with the PIC is that it invests and reinvests in big corporates, and it doesn't support emerging black business. It's not only about that. The same government workers, 70% or more of them can't afford houses, yet they've got PIC. Why can't PIC partner with any of the commercial banks or all of them, since they are a shareholder in all these banks, come up with a housing scheme for the civil servants who are the investors of the PIC, so that they begin to benefit from that money while they are still alive. So we need a PIC that is biased to young people, biased to women, and the PIC that partners with them, brings the money. You've got a good idea, this is so brilliant, go into business with this person with an intention to recover their money and exit and leave that person with his or her business. That's the type of a model we want. But even state institutions which are given a mandate to help are demanding worse than what commercial banks are demanding from the youth, from rural women, from Africans themselves, which is unreasonable because you've got a government that is run in a capitalist way of doing things. Governments must be prepared to lose money. You can't have a government that is not prepared to lose money.
But when you say that, a lot of people, taxpayers, sit up and say, look at what happened at the state-owned entities, right? And Eskom comes to mind and say, the biggest risk we are told by economists now facing the country is an Eskom default on the debt that it has generated over a period of time. So, you know, how can government has been paying bailouts for some time?
Well, we need to ask a question. How many times did the Japan government bail out Toyota for it to be what it is today? It was not once off. They had to fight. They had to make sure that this idea of theirs is so brilliant and they cannot allow it to die. And many, many a times it didn't make profit. It couldn't run on its own. Government had to come in and save it. Today, you can't talk as if this is not one of the biggest companies, multinational companies in the whole world. Eskom was not the issue of the capacity to deliver. It was just corruption. We ought to deal with corruption if we want government that can deliver. An idea can look very brilliant on paper, but when put on practice, it can be very challenging. But we have to navigate with it until we get it right. As long as there is an accountability and clear explanation is provided with tangible proof that the money didn't end in the pockets of politicians, then South Africans, including the taxpayers, wouldn't mind. But in Eskom's situation, we know the money was stolen. We know that people paid themselves huge sums of millions, and that's why Eskom is in a state it is now. But secondly, you've got a board of Eskom, including the Modise brothers, Jeff Radebe, the president, Patrice Modise, who don't have love for Eskom. Their wish is that that thing must close so that the IPPs, which they themselves have hold big contracts, can be an alternative to Eskom. So that it's a big problem. That is another Gupta that is coming into our country, and we ought to deal with that. Patrice Motsepe must be stopped. Jeff Radebe, Cyril Ramaphosa, they should be stopped. These IPPs are going to benefit their families, and they disregard the state company called Eskom, which has got a huge potential.
Well, I want to know from you, and let me get a sense, how do you compare the current president, Cyril Ramaphosa, to the former president, Jacob Zuma? You think the situation is going to improve now that we've got Cyril Ramaphosa in charge of the country's affairs compared to President
You
Zuma?
can't. They are the same. They are from the same pot. You can't cook a chicken in the same pot and say this piece is better than that piece. They are all the same. What is the pot? The pot is African national corruption. That's where they are cooked. They are all products of that. The symptoms are there, Bratim. Cyril is going to show you guys flames. And I'm happy that I won now, because I did even in 2011 about the Guptas. And the ANC wanted to charge me, by the way, for that. When I exposed the Guptas in 2011 ANC manifesto in Rustenburg, in that new big stadium, when I said, we never elected a family, we're not going to be controlled by a family. Ayanda Dlodlo was actually one of the people leading, Ayanda Dlodlo and Diana Pule, leading the charge against me in the NWC of the ANC that I must be charged for having attacked the Guptas in 2011. I see the same things I saw in 2011. I see them now.
Well, let's pause for a while, because I want to take a look at the response from President Cyril Ramaphosa when Mmusi Maimane asked him a question about the links to Bosasa through his son, that he received a donation. And this is his response in Parliament.
And this payment, I can assure you, Mr. Maimane, that I asked him at close range whether this was money that was obtained illegally, unlawfully, and he said this was a service that was provided, and to this end, he actually even showed me a contract that he signed with Bosasa, and the contract and the contract also deals with issues of integrity, issues of anti-corruption, and all that. And if it turns out, Mr. Maimane, I can assure you, if it turns out that there is any illegality and corruption in the way that he has dealt with this matter, I will be the first, absolutely first, to make sure that he becomes accountable. Even if it means, I can assure you, even if it means that I'm the one who will take him to the police station, that I will be able to do.
And that's President Cyril Ramaphosa. So from what you said before, you sound like you're not convinced that he can fight corruption like he's promising. I mean, people look at the different commissions of inquiry underway in the country and some of the dismissals and the new appointments and say, you know, this is a person who's trying to fix the country.
Yeah,
but you're not convinced.
But the son is now involved in Busasa, which is a criminal syndicate. You must ask him, when are we taking the son to police station? He committed, he will take him to police station. Lip service is something else. Now, the contract he was talking about is surely illegal because they've been doing illegal things in Busasa. It's clear to everyone. The question should be, when is the honorable, transparent president who's fixing things, by the way, taking his son to police station? Since the facts have come out that this is an illegal thing. I've written a letter to him, by the way, and I asked him, are you prepared to share the contents of the contract with Parliament? Because you have since raised the contract in Parliament. By the way, he said later on retracted that response and said no, he was responding to something else. The true response and correct one is that the money went into some trust which was running his campaign. I asked him, will you be able to share the trust deeds with the nation? What was the trust formed for? So that we are taken into confidence that Mr. Ramaphosa's campaign was not funded by a trust which take money from certain beneficiaries. Because the trust deeds will tell us if Mr. Ramaphosa is a beneficiary of that trust. He said he will since return that 500,000. Where is the proof of payment that he has returned the money back, since he realized the money comes from a wrong source? Fair enough. Mr. Ramaphosa, who else donated to the trust? Because he's a clean man who's trying to correct the country. Let him print the bank statement of the trust and share it with the country as to who are these people. Do they have contracts with government? What do they stand to benefit by investing money in you becoming the president of the ANC and ultimately the president of the country? This is the man who pitched very high, and therefore we're going to judge him with a very high expectations. So there's nothing you're going to get different. We need to ask the question, if President Ramaphosa is there to fix, why are you sitting with Nomvula? Leave Batabil for now. There is no scandal that comes out in South Africa and it doesn't involve Nomvula.
Let's pause right there. I want to pick up on exactly that point. And of course, there are other issues that we will be looking at. Talking to the leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, Julius Malema, ahead of the launch of the EFF's manifesto, Soshanguve, the 2nd of February. We want to hear your views on social media as well. And the hashtag is the Modise Network. Don't go away. I'll be back with Julius Malema.